Hey guys, how's it going? I want to quickly discuss about aspiration pneumonia. Have you heard of the condition? That is when somebody develops pneumonia due to swallowing food into the lungs. How can that even happen, right? Because normally when we swallow food, it goes through the food pipe into the stomach. And by the way, the medical term for the food pipe is esophagus. So normally food goes through the esophagus into the stomach, right? But for some people, some part of the food ends up going through the windpipe. Windpipe, by the way, the medical term for it is called as trachea. So it can actually go into the trachea. And then you can tell most of the time that somebody is aspirating because when they're eating food, they start coughing a lot. That's a classic sign and symptom of aspiration, that the food is actually going into the windpipe. It can set up a bad wheezing reaction and they can cough a lot. And of course, if substantial amount of food goes into the lungs, it can set up a real bad pneumonia. The oxygen levels can plummet and many of them may need to be intubated and have machines breathe for them. And when they get intubated and when you suck the stuff from the lungs, you would find that there's a lot of food coming out of the lungs. That is aspiration pneumonia. And it not only happens when people are just swallowing, it can also happen when they're regurgitating food from the stomach, like acid reflux. When people have bad acid reflux, their acid from the stomach comes all the way up to the throat and you can actually feel the reflux coming up, right? But part of that reflux material can spill over into the windpipe, the trachea, and then it can go into the lungs. That is actually a dangerous one too because, it's got acid in it, because the contents from the stomach, when they come up, that's all acid, right? Because the stomach secretes acid. And then in people with bowel obstruction, when bile cannot go down, it starts filling up into the stomach and then it starts going into the food pipe and then it starts coming out and they throw it up typically. But when they're throwing up, it can also go into the windpipe and it can set up a bad pneumonia. So bowel obstruction can actually lead to aspiration when patients are throwing up. So it's a complex condition and it can start happening recurrently for some people with the swallowing difficulties, like Parkinson's patients or somebody who is just generally weak and they're growing older, dementia patients. They are all at a high risk to be swallowing food into their lungs and have recurrent aspiration pneumonia. I hope it was an interesting for you to know about. And if somebody is coughing a lot, especially elderly people in your family, when you see them eat and if they're coughing a lot, just be aware of the fact that they might be aspirating food into their lungs, okay? Talk to you later in my next post. Goodbye.